Hello and welcome to episode number 38 of the Wedding Business Podcast. Can't believe we're on 38. That's gone very, very quickly. One day we'll make it to 100. And today I'm joined by club member Stacy, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. Stacy recently came on my retreat and we had a super, super duper time together. So really pleased to have you here, Stacy. For those of the listeners who don't know who you are, tell us a bit about that.
Okie dokie. So I have spent all my life basically working in marketing. And then about 5-6 years ago, sort of entered the world of calligraphy. And now I run a calligraphy and stationery business called So Calligraphy or Stacy Oakley Calligraphy. I can't decide whether to go for the initials or the whole thing. So either or is fine. And then this January, gosh, the years just merged, don't they?
I know.
It was like at some point, it was this January, I think, just gone. I also launched So Engaged, which is an SEO service for wedding businesses, which has been nice to work with.
So, with a background in marketing, how did you end up in calligraphy? Like,
yeah,
normal one, is it?
So. It's a slight rambly story.
Great, love it.
Apologies before I get into it. So, starts a bit sad. When about 6 years ago, I lost my dad, and my daughter was 5 months old at the time. So, didn't really have time to process any sort of grief. If anyone's lost anyone with a small child, the day they die, you still have to be entertaining them and feeding them and being happy. I can't just be like a sobbing mess on the floor. And then about a year later, I was diagnosed with depression from my dad dying and not having processed it. It was all sort of bottled up. And when I was seeing a counsellor for that, the counsellor said to me, "What do you do for yourself?" And I was like, I don't really know. I watch telly, and they were like, "No, that doesn't count." And I was like, "Okay, I don't do anything for myself," which I think for just mums in general, I think would be a really common answer. It's like, I don't, basically. And he was like, "You should go and get yourself a hobby." So I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do." And I was chatting to my friend about it, and she said to me, "You've got really nice handwriting, and I recently did a calligraphy workshop. So why don't you try calligraphy?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, got to do something." And went along to this workshop, and like 10 minutes in, I was like, this is my thing. Like, I've just found it. And I was really rubbish at it to start with. And I think that's how I know that I was meant to do it, because normally I'm the sort of person that if I do something and I'm not very good at it, I just go, "I'm not going to do that. I'll do something else." Like, I just like to be good at something straight away. But I remember with this, I remember saying to the teacher, "How long did it take you to get this good?" And she said, "Oh, about 3 years." And I was like, right, okay, 3 years. That's what I've got in my head. And 3 years later, I had the business. And it was,
wow.
So I sort of had that as like a target. So I found calligraphy really good for like mental health, for switching off. I almost find it a bit like meditation. I know we've had a lot of chats about meditation, especially recently, but I actually find if I'm just sort of writing, and especially when I'm using a nib, you can see the ink coming out, and it's quite, people love watching Instagram videos of people writing calligraphy. So it just helped me relax, helped me sort of get through that sort of very dark period in my life. And then for the stationery, it was sort of accidental. A friend of mine knew that I was doing calligraphy. She said, "My friend's getting married. She wants some place cards." So I did her place cards. Gosh, I wouldn't like to see them now. I can't imagine how bad they look now. And I was just like, well, this is cool. Like, I've done calligraphy and I've been paid for it. And at that point, I think I was boring all my friends on my personal Instagram account. So then I set up a So Calligraphy account, which started off, I mean, if you scroll for like 10 minutes right back to the start, it was just me putting pictures of things that I had done that weren't actually any good. But I like keeping that on there just to be able to look back and go, wow,
Yeah, good for you.
I've got and then they told their friends, and gradually just started getting wedding bookings through that. Fantastic. That was waffly. Sorry.
No. It's actually really interesting, because I think certainly in the wedding industry, when you ask people that question, like, not many people tell you it was always my dream to be a wedding stationer, wedding photographer, wedding florist. It's not very often I hear that answer, and it's lovely that your story actually comes from not a great place. Like, you found this thing that helped you through and process a really tragic time in your life, and then it became your business.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason when I was looking for what to name my business. So when we were talking about my name before we sort of press record, so my name is not Stacey Oakley, that's my maiden name, but I felt like I lost my dad and I lost his name with him because he had 2 girls, so that name will be gone. So I thought it's kind of a nice sort of acknowledgement of him, I guess, to keep my maiden name and have Oakley. He would be really proud that Oakley is in my business name instead of Westhead, which is not as glamorous as a name.
Well, I think you'll be doing him very proud, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
On that note, I just want to talk about this misconception that starting a wedding business is an overnight thing, and indeed any business, like you hear all the time, or you see sometimes, start your business in 10 days. Because you've just told me, and the calligraphy teacher said 3 years, and you had that in your head. Is that what made you kind of slow down and take the business one step at a time, or was it because you had young children, or were you actually chomping at the bit but patient at the same time? How did all of that work for you?
No, so I think actually I was sort of helped by, I suffer really badly with imposter syndrome, and I was like, I can't possibly be paid for doing this until I feel like I am good enough. And even now I get jobs that are sort of big, high value jobs that come in, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not good enough. And I think Instagram probably doesn't help, because there's so many calligraphers. Well, there's so many of everything now on Instagram, and I'm working still. It's a process to not be going, they're so much better than me, because sometimes people that I think are amazing, and I show my husband and he's like, your stuff's better than that. So it just shows me that everyone's different in terms of what they like. So I'm trying to accept that. So it took me probably a lot longer, because I didn't feel good enough, and I wasn't happy to get paid until I felt like the stuff I was doing was worth paying for. Although now, looking back to my first job, I think when I worked it out at the end, I think I got about £1.50 an hour for that job.
But it happened, doesn't it?
Yeah,
a learning process, I'm sure.
Yes.
It's interesting you talk about imposter syndrome, because I think loads of people in our industry suffer with this. I think you're absolutely right. Instagram does us no favors, because it's like a constant showcase of everyone else's best work, and we can spend a lifetime comparing our behind the scenes to their highlights reel, and that makes it very, very difficult. You said it's a process, which I completely agree. I still have days where I just can't even do a thing, because I'm worried about what everyone else is doing. But what are the steps you've taken that have really helped you go on that journey of really yourself?
So I very frequently look back at my own stuff, and I think about, actually, sometimes I don't really feel any different. But looking back at that makes me realize that there has been a step change and that I am better. I'm also getting some people who are just starting out on their journey saying to me, oh my God, your stuff is so good, I'll never be as good at that as that. And it makes me realize that there's a journey for everyone, I guess, and I'm just on that, somewhere on that journey. And just trying to see other people's work as like inspiration or like a goal. My teacher that first taught me, and I was like, right, 3 years, that's good. Like, I'm not looking at other people who've been doing it much longer than me and going, I want to do that today, but maybe that's something to sort of aim for. So sort of seeing it more as a a goal or an ambition to get like that, rather than like, oh God, I'm not like that right now.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find that it affects how visible, and we're going to come on and talk about SEO, because obviously that's your zone of genius, along with calligraphy, but do you find that this hampers your ability to be visible?
Sometimes I will do a piece of work and I'll be really happy with it, and then because I can't take a good photo of it, or for some reason, even like the light might be rubbish, or I can't find a prop to go with it, and it suddenly makes me start like hating the work that I've done, and then I just don't bother posting it, even though to me at first, when I first did it, I thought it was really nice. The main thing that really hampers me and how visible I am is just how busy I am. Normally, if I haven't been on Instagram for a few weeks, it's normally just because I just don't have any time to even think about recording a story.
And I think, I was talking about this in the Wedding Business Club yesterday. I think we should normalize this idea of not being on show all of the time. Like, if you have the resource and you have the time and the desire to be on Instagram not 24/7, that would be unhelpful, but regularly every single day, then that's great. But if it's not right for you to do that, I think we have to acknowledge that that's not right for us, and be, like you say, on our journey, which may not involve that.
Yeah, and I'm sort of becoming much more okay with not being on Instagram all the time. I've had, recently, I think I had about a 2-week period. I went on holiday, and then we had the retreat, and then my husband buggered off to Mexico for a week. So I was just like, there is no way. So I was off Instagram for about 2 weeks. And honestly, I don't really think I've seen a difference. Like, I try not to get too obsessed with follower numbers or likes or engagement. I've got enough things to worry about, so I'll just do what I can do, and that's it. That's all I can do. And
I like that. So let's have a think about the wedding world. When an inquiry comes in, or be that through Instagram or your website or whichever channel it is, how do you know when that message comes through? How do you know, oh yeah, these people are for me, I want to work with them?
Well, this is actually only a recent thing. Before, I could have an inquiry go from start to finish, and I never spoke to the couple at all. But now I'm sort of now saying to every inquiry that comes in, let's jump on a Zoom call, mainly because people are more comfortable with it now. I think people are like, okay, fine, let's have a Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Because it's really weird. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just get a feeling whether people are my people, like if I'm speaking to them properly. Normally, and I'm sure a lot of people in the wedding industry get this, if my first conversation with them over email is about price, then I know they're probably not my people. If they are sort of saying, if they've already looked through my site, or if they've looked through my Instagram and they're showing me pictures that they like, I think, you've done the work, you get me, and you're probably my people. Sometimes I get inquiries of people who've seen something on Etsy, and they'll send me photos of that, and straight away I'm like, I know you're not, because you're looking through Etsy and you're going to expect me to equal that in price, and I'm not prepared to get into a price war with Etsy sellers. So it's little things like that, what they talk about first. Also, a lot of the time, their venue and what venue they've chosen can tell me whether they're, my calligraphy and my stationery isn't cheap, so it's not super luxe though either. It's sort of somewhere in the middle. So I'm getting more familiar now with the venues and the photographers, and based on what they tell me, that will tell me whether they're my sort of people. But I do genuinely, when I'm chatting to somebody, I sort of know pretty quickly if they are my people.
Yeah, I think intuition plays a massive part in it. I used to try and not listen to my intuition, because I'd be like, but they want to spend money with me, and ignore the red flags. I only had it once or twice, and you've probably done it, when you take a booking and you're like, I shouldn't have taken this booking, not because they're bad people necessarily, but because if they're on a different journey than you, if they have different desires, different aspirations, it's all very subjective what we do, isn't it? Like, what is good for one person will be different to the next, and that's quite hard. Or what's nice, or what's luxury. So yeah, you have to trust that intuition.
Yeah. And my mum often says to me, you know, she's like, you charged how much for that? She's like, I wouldn't pay that. And now I'm just like, it's okay, mum, because you're not my ideal customer. So that's fine. That would be good if you told me that, because I can immediately get you off my to-do list.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you recognize that, because here's the thing, unless somebody has done this wedding thing before, a lot of the time they actually don't know, do they? Like, I know because I work in the industry, but if you have never ordered invitations for anything, let alone like hand written and crafted and designed invitations, I don't think many people would know what actually the cost of that is.
No. And I'm happy to share with people, you know, a breakdown to say with them, you know, this is how much the card costs, this is how much the plates cost to print it, and this is how long it will take me to design it. But there's also an element of that thing, I'm sure as a photographer, you got this, you know, people are like, well, that's a high day rate or hourly rate. And you're like, but it's not about the hours. It's about the years that I have spent perfecting this craft. You know, you couldn't just go away and get a camera and, you know, take the same photos for the day. So, you know, you wouldn't haggle with a doctor and say, well, that's a very high rate. Not that we pay for doctors, bad example, but if we were paying for doctors, because you appreciate the expertise. So it's no different, really.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Let's talk about your other business. So
very random.
as the juggle, as we're talking about juggling, like you have your calligraphy, your stationery design business, and you've got your SEO business. Now I know how that's come about, and you did touch on this corporate life that you had, but it's actually not that random, is it? Because you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. So I sort of accidentally fell into digital marketing when I came out of uni. I was supposed to be a maths teacher, and then I decided I didn't want to do that, and then I didn't have anything to do. So I fell into marketing and worked at an agency in London for like 15 years. I left that this June, which is a big deal. Yay. After a chat with you. Thanks, Faye. So I did that for 15 years, and SEO was a big part of that. I did a lot of Google work. So I also did the paid advertising on Google and Google Analytics and SEO. And while I was sort of building the calligraphy business, I was doing a lot of styled shoots and networking events and just generally meeting other people in the wedding industry. And you know, it's normally like a hi, how long have you been doing this, like your chat, and then they go, oh, is this your full-time job? No, I also work in marketing. And then I would say to most people, you know, I work in marketing doing like SEO and PPC. And I would say like 80% of the people I said that to immediately went, oh God, I don't know anything about SEO, I need to know about it. Or they'd say, oh, blogging, it's just blogging, right? And after that for a few years, and then I was thinking about quitting work, and COVID, I went on furlough from work, so I had a bit more time, and I was quite lucky, like obviously with the wedding industry, you know, I felt very fortunate that at that point I did have a 9-to-5 that I could furlough from. And I just started thinking, you know, there's something here, like all these wedding businesses that I'm speaking to are like, I need SEO help, and I've got SEO expertise, but I'm also a wedding business. So I sort of understand the nuances of the industry. So I just set up randomly, it was a really random one night, set up an Instagram page, and a few of my calligraphy pals shared it. And within sort of 3 days, I had like 150 followers and people sending me messages going, I really need help with SEO. And I was like, okay. And then I think you then messaged me and you were like, do you want to do a talk in April? And I was like, right, this is going to be a thing now. Obviously Faye Cornhill is like maker of destiny, because it's just like things happen because of that. So then I just literally duplicated my calligraphy website, changed the domain, changed all the imagery and the text, obviously, And yeah, within 4 months, I had a website and had done a talk with the Wedding Business Club, and then loads of people from the Wedding Business Club then got in touch, and yeah, it's just been a bit crazy, really. Good.
How are you finding the juggle of 2 businesses?
Difficult. Well, I won't lie. I think it would be okay if I didn't also have children, but it's like the triple juggle. I'm having to be much more strict with time management. I've now taken my emails off my phone because it was driving me mad. And I have to be really careful with not taking on too many SEO clients, because that work does take quite a long time. So I'll maybe take 3 on a month, if that, 2, 3 a month, and trying to get the pricing right to allow me to do that, but not outprice it, and work on that. But I think I'm getting there.
Oh, I literally couldn't be happier. When we had that chat that you referred to, I was very excited for you then, and I continue to be, because I know you're going to smash both.
Thanks.
So let's talk about SEO then, because I would say most people in our industry know that we should be doing something. I would agree with that statement that you made. Well, it's blogging, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time and time again. What are the fundamental basics that we should be doing?
So first of all is getting your sort of strategy right. You can't say that you're doing SEO if you have no idea what keywords you want to rank for in Google. And I always say to not just think in terms of the normal wedding photographer or wedding stationery, because those things are going to be super competitive. And unless you are putting, X amount of hours per month into SEO and really driving that, you're not going to rank for that. But if you think about what your ideal customers might be searching for, are they searching for fine art photographer, Berkshire? Are they searching for, calligraphy, wedding stationery? Think about the specific things. So your keywords get a little bit more niche. And yes, that means not as many people are searching for them, but it means that you've got more chance of ranking and more chance of converting that lead. And when people think about keywords, they normally think of one keyword and they go, okay, that's what I'll optimize my whole site for. But what I actually try and encourage is to think of each page on your site as almost like a mini website in itself, and another opportunity to rank for a different keyword. Any of my clients that are sort of listening to this, I tend to talk about sort of front doors. You don't just have one front door to your website. Every page of your website can be a new front door. So, for my calligraphy website, I don't just do wedding calligraphy. I do corporate calligraphy and workshops, and I've got a shop. So I've got a page for each one of those things. And if you search for wedding calligraphy, I'm now number 1. And when you click on that, you don't go through to my homepage. You go through to my wedding calligraphy page. Right. So maximize your front doors. And also get links. Oh, it's so important to get links through to your site. And I think, weddings, if you're doing styled shoots, make sure that the shoot submission has your web address in it. If you're doing guest blog posts, make sure that they link back to your website, and just always be thinking about ways that you can get links back to your site, because Google sees those as a recommendation and they're priceless, really. So
1 billion brownie points.
Yes.
If anyone's listening and they're like, I feel like I could get quite excited about this. It's not for everyone, but I know there are people who are like, oh, I love this. I love getting into it. I love tracking where I rank. Mm-hmm. What are the tools? Is it Google Analytics and off you pop, or are there other useful tools that want to be used?
So Google Analytics is really important, because obviously Google Analytics will tell you how much traffic you're getting from each of your different sources, and also make sure, everyone, that you have a specific thank you page with a thank you page URL, and you set that up as a goal. And if you don't know what that is, let me know. So then you can also see not only how many people are coming to your site, but what are they doing? Are they filling in your contact form, which is gold dust when it comes to tracking? So there's another tool called Google Search Console. And that is, if you've got Google Analytics, then you'll be able to access Google Search Console. It'll already be set up in the background running, even if you've never gone onto it. So that will tell you where you rank. It will tell you how many people are clicking on you when they see you. It will tell you if there's any problems. It's sort of like Google's sort of back end to tell you if there's any issues with your site when Google's crawling it. So always check the Google Search Console. There's then a nice keywords plugin. So I tend to use the Google keyword tool, but unless you've got paid ads running, the Google keyword tool is really inaccurate. It's really frustrating. But there's a plugin called Keywords Everywhere. You pay about a tenner and you get like 1 million credits that you'll never use. But then when you start searching in Google, underneath actually where the search is, it will tell you how many people search for that keyword. So you'll be able to start seeing, what gets a lot of searches, what doesn't. So then that will help you build your sort of strategy in your keyword research. There's a nice website called Uber Suggest. Nothing to do with Uber, as far as I'm aware. But that will also tell you some keyword volumes, tell you who's linking to you. There's quite a lot of sort of paid tools out there, but I think if you start with those, then that would be a really good base.
Great, lovely.
Oh no, I forgot one. I forgot a free one. That's my favorite one. It's got a really random name. It's called Screaming Frog.
Wow.
And you basically put your URL into Screaming Frog and it spits out all of your pages. It tells you what all your titles are, what all your header tags are, if you've got images that are too big, your descriptions. It's amazing. So Screaming Frog.
That is amazing. And what a random name.
I know.
Do people still Google everything? I mean, like, I feel like if I need something, I just Google it. I know there's chatter that Instagram searches are, and I can see it with a visual industry like the wedding industry, you are getting to the juice nice and quick on Instagram, but I still Google everything.
Yeah. Well, there's over 5 million searches for weddings every month on Google. So that's just in the UK. So yes, people are still Googling. I think a lot of people sort of use both together. So they might Google someone, see them, and then think, I'm going to go and check out their Instagram, or vice versa. I think the problem with Instagram is I think if you're searching as a bride or groom, then you are going to see a lot of American people who have a lot more followers. And I think it's quite muddled. Whereas if you do a Google search in the UK, you tend to only see UK suppliers, which makes it a little bit easier. But I wouldn't say do one or the other. I think they're both very important, but people are definitely still Googling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I Google absolutely everything, but like you said, I will then go and look for social proof that they are what they said they were. And yeah, I really like when things match up, like, oh wow, cool website, oh wow, matchy Instagram profile with that. Can I ask you about video? Because I know that from a social media perspective, we're all going in that direction, whether we like it or not. And I know it really annoys some people, but I personally, when I land on an Instagram account and I'm like, I just want to see the person behind this business. I want to hear you talk or see what you look like, not because that has a bearing on whether I book you, but you just sort of kind of, if it ticks a few boxes, you're warming to someone. Is video as important from an SEO perspective as it is from a visibility on social media perspective?
So it depends, really. It's not as important when you're looking at just Googling and getting the normal Google listing. But YouTube is like a separate SEO beast. So, if you want to rank in Google video, I'm trying to think what sort of searches you might want to, maybe if someone's searching for, measuring up for buying a wedding dress, for example, then you might want to have a video about that and get that ranking on Google. it would need to be the sort of searches where, you know, there's sometimes when you search and the videos are served above because it's a video specific search.
Yes.
Like I think if somebody's just searching for wedding stationery, no videos are going to come up, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if I wanted to get people in who are looking on how to measure up for their wedding dresses, then I might do a video on that. But again, it's very similar principles. You know, you want to make sure your title's optimized, your description's optimized, that you've got as much detail as possible in all the different fields. So yeah, it just depends really on the strategy and the keywords that you're looking to target, I guess.
Great.
But so I have dealt with some brands who on their like about me page just have a video, and Google can't understand that. So and I think that's the main issue that I see with a lot of wedding businesses is that we're so visual that our websites might be beautiful and full of imagery and videos and everything else, but Google doesn't have eyes. I mean, it kind of does, but it doesn't have actual eyes. So you need to make sure that you're writing real words like around that, whether that's like a transcribing underneath, because also Google wants to be accessible, and you know, screen readers can't look at images and videos, and so yeah, being accessible and wordy is good.
Yeah, love that. Also, I love when things are wordy anyway, because that means something. When I read something and it hits a spot, I feel good about that. I think copy is really underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So let's talk about then what advice you would give to someone who's at the early stages or even day one of starting their wedding business. What advice would you give someone who's at the beginning of that journey?
Do the work, do the modules on your wedding business club, do your ideal client one, especially. I think one thing that I got really wrong for a long time was my pricing. And, you know, when I look back, I mean, I had years where I just didn't make any profit and I was getting money coming in. But then when I did my accounts at the end, I was like, oh yeah, like I spent more on card and ink than I did from that I got for that job.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you have properly sorted out all your costs and get your pricing right, because it's genuinely like a game changer. You then don't need as many jobs because you're making more money for each job, which is really nice. One thing that I'm getting better at now, which is also been a bit of a game changer, is to be comfortable with saying no. Like I think because I need the money now, like this is my only income, and it's really hard when somebody sends me a job, but if it's not aligned with what I want to do, the stuff I want to be sharing, the stuff I want to be known for, like I just have to now just say no, like no, I'm just not the right fit for this, because I'm trying to think more than just money now. I'm thinking more like, okay, I will get money for the job, but also they might want to book me again, or they might want to tell their friends. And you know, if you do a job that you wish you sort of hadn't, that job might lead to more jobs that you wish you hadn't got, and you kind of get more of the same. So it's hard, especially when it is your only income, but making sure that you are sort of saying no to the jobs that don't feel right. And also just network. Like honestly, it's been so much better doing this with lots of people, knowing lots of people in the industry. Like find your tribe. I've got a group of I think there's about 18 calligraphers, and we're on a little WhatsApp group, and honestly they've become some of my best friends now, because we all just get it, and we, you know, it's very, and it's sort of cliche to say community over competition, but you know, we share pricing, we share you know, invoice templates. One girl is really hot on Etsy, so she did a talk about Etsy, I did a talk about SEO, and we sort of share all the things that we're sort of good at between us, so it makes it a lot less lonely, and cuts out some of the mistakes, I think. If you've got people that you can chat to, and everyone's really nice, like, so if you don't have people, just reach out to people and you'll then have people. Can I say people again?
I'm sure you'll say it once more. If you had to pick one thing that has moved the needle in your business the furthest, what would you pick?
pricing.
Yeah.
Getting that price right. I realized, I was going to say early on, it was early on in the SEO business, but I think because I'd already had the calligraphy journey, I was sort of more comfortable with pricing. When I was like, actually, like there was a time with the SEO business that 100% of people that were coming to me were converting into clients.
Wow.
And I can't remember where I read it. I read something once that said, if you're converting more than 50% of your leads, you need to put your prices up and just keep doing it until, because then I was like, well, actually, if I'd have just converted half of them, but at double the price, I'd have made the same money and done half the work. And then when that sort of light bulb moment, I was like, okay, but I don't want to price out. Like some people are ludicrously expensive for SEO, and I don't want to be that person, because I really want, I genuinely want wedding businesses to engage with SEO, thus the So Engaged works on so many levels, being a wedding industry as well. I do want them. I don't want people to be afraid of SEO. I want them to think, I can do it. Yes, I'm a creative. Yes, I'm a visual brand, but I can also do SEO, because honestly, it's not that complicated. It's just getting your head around the terminology and a bit of code. And I'm really not very technical. And if I can do it, anyone can.
Love that. Stacy, I feel like I could just talk all day long. In fact, that is what we did on the retreat. So we'll save that next retreat. Thank you so much for your time. It's been so lovely to talk to you, and I know people listening will have really enjoyed this. Obviously, as you're a guest on the Wedding Business podcast, that means you're a member of the Wedding Business Club.
Yes.
Just to finish, tell me about your experience of being a member.
So I think, like a lot of people, I don't do the modules like I should. It's always on my to-do list, because I think there's a huge value in them. It's just a time thing. But I think for me, what's been most valuable is that whole sort of finding people to connect with. I know there's always a group of people there, you know, when people post their questions in the group, and everyone's so helpful at like posting answers, you know, having people like you and other members who are like, they've like done it, and you just think, okay, well, it's possible. And also they're like nice, and they're mums, and it just makes you feel like you're not so alone in doing this. You know, the retreat was like, I mean, to say life-changing sounds quite dramatic. It was big. Like, it was really good. I should tell everyone it was awful, so then I can make sure I get it next time. Awful, don't do it. It's more just the connection and the people, really, but also having the resources and the information there. And sometimes I just find I dip into it. Like if I think, you know, oh, I need a bit of Instagram attention, then I can just log in and dip into that, and there's the resources there whenever I need it. I'm trying not to pressurize myself to actually do one a month, because
well, I mean, I say to people that the Wedding Business Club is a bit like a gym membership, and we've all been through that sort of like guilt of I must do it all, but no one joins a gym and goes to every class. You pick what's right for you, and you try and stay on track with that. And I think building a wedding business, we've already established this, it's not an overnight thing, it's a little and often, but you've got to do the work, and it's you that has to do it. So I'm happy that that's worked for you, and I'm obviously happy to have you as a member, and delighted that you came on the retreat.
Me too.
Stacy, thank you so much for your time. Where do people find your website, and what's your Instagram handle?
So I'm socalligraphy.co.uk or soengaged.co.uk, and my Instagram handles are socalligraphy UK, because there's someone holding So Calligraphy, which is annoying, or So Engaged.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Stacy. That was
Thank you. It was lovely to chat.
Bye-bye.
Take care.